Good afternoon. As almost pronounced correctly, I'm Matthieu De Beule from Belgium. I'm one of the co-founders of FEops. We're a digital scale-up, and we're focusing on. So, our vision is that AI will play a key role in providing physicians insights that they don't have today, based on the imaging that they do have today. And we're well on track to pioneer this type of technology in the structural heart space, which is related to heart valves and the left atrial appendage. And we also see a large opportunity in the coronary artery disease space for this type of technology. If we look at some milestones that we have achieved for the last couple of years, there are many, but the most important ones are that we are, I think, the only company out there in the structural heart space that has a regulatory cleared technology, both in Europe under the MDR, as in the United States, where we went through a de novo process because there was just no predicate device available on the US market. Next to that, we have conducted a clinical trial, a randomized controlled trial. It's 200 patients randomized 1-to-1 that really shows the power of this type of technology for this patient cohort. And we're also now rolling it out commercially as we speak. We will be raising 10 million this year, for two reasons. One is to commercialize our structural heart business, but also to start developing technology for new indications. Now, we have a team of about 40 people, currently all located in Ghent, Belgium. And we are, let's say, well guided by some industry veterans in our board of directors. You might recognize some of the faces at the bottom of this slide. So, amongst others, we have Rob Michaels on our board, who has been the COO of CoreValve and the CEO of CardiAQ. Both companies were acquired by Medtronic and Edwards and are their leading devices in this space. We've also Pepe on our board. He has leadership positions at Abbott. He was CEO of Biosensors. And next to that, we have now a new chairman, which is Ewan Thompson, who is the current president and CEO of Zeiss. And he has been developing the digital heart strategy or digital health strategy for example, J&J and Samsung. Now, what do we do? So we take medical images. So if you go and have an intervention, typically medical images are taken for transcatheter-based interventions. We take these images and we can transform these images into a digital twin of the patient that allows you to pre-operatively assess different treatment scenarios. And I will come back to that later on. We've applied that technology in different disease states. We have validated technology on the left atrial appendage side, on the transcatheter aortic valve side, on the mitral valve side, tricuspid side, and pulmonary valve side. And we're also now moving into the coronary space. Now, looking from a development perspective, we are furthest along the path in the LAA space because that's where we recently published a study in JACC on the results of the clinical trial, and I will come back to that later on. But we have similar clinical data available in TAVI and mitral, and we are now also, as I said, exploring new developments on the coronary side. Now, zooming in a little bit more in detail to give you a picture of what we actually do. Currently, as said, if a patient is treated for a structural heart intervention, the gold standard treatment is minimally invasive therapy, meaning that a physician needs to rely on medical imaging to make very important decisions, such as what is the implant size that I will select and where will I put that device. So if you look to the picture on the left on top, this is the current gold standard. Take medical images of that patient. Sometimes you do a 3D reconstruction and do an overlay of an undeformed device on that anatomy, and then you have to figure out in your mind on how that device will deform, how the patient anatomy will deform, to assess whether that device will sit properly and do its function. Now, what we have developed is predictive technology that allows you to take the same images and predict preoperatively how that device will deform, as mentioned on the bottom. And this has a significant impact, for example, on efficiency. What we have been able to show in our clinical study is that on average, people use 1.2 to 1.4 devices per patient for this intervention based on classic planning. With our technology, we have been able to reduce this to 1.03, which is the lowest number ever published to date. Now, if you look to another disease stage, which is aortic valve disease, there's also, again, a minimally invasive approach, which is called TAVI in Europe or TAVR in the United States. And there are also complications occurring, such as leakage if the device is not sealing well against the native anatomy, or risk of conduction abnormalities. We have built predictors for that, so now pre-operatively we can assess the risk of these complications. And we have also clinical evidence showing that, for example, for complex patient anatomies, we're able to reduce these complication rates significantly. Another area of interest is mitral valve replacement. This is, again, a market that will evolve significantly in the years ahead of us. but where, for example, screening of patients is very challenging, because for the mitral valve, which is located in the center of your heart, it's very important to screen that patient over the whole cardiac cycle to really see whether there's a good fit throughout the whole cardiac cycle. And there, the screening process is very time-consuming as we speak, and not always that accurate. So what we developed there is, again, a fast screening approach with a very accurate risk of assessment, for example, of LVOT obstruction. And on the coronary side, this is also an emerging market where it's clear that CT imaging or CCTA scans will be the gold standard imaging modality of the future, but it's pretty time-consuming to assess, for example, complex lesions, so also there AI and automation will find its space. Now, zooming in a little bit on the clinical data that we gathered. So this is, it's defined as a landmark trial. It's the first trial ever for this type of predictive technology in the structural heart space, where we have done a study where we collected 200 patients, randomized 1-to-1, so 100 with classic planning based on just measuring on the anatomy and doing an overlay of an undeformed device, compared to our technology, FEops HeartGuide, where we predict how a device interacts with that particular patient. What we've learned there was pretty interesting. So we did it at 10 sites in Europe and in Canada. And what we, for example, saw is that we were able to reduce the procedure time significantly. We were able to reduce the contrast usage. We were able to have 100% procedural success. But next to that, also the number of patients where they went in with one device, landed it in one position, got out again, that success rate doubled in our arm. In addition to that, we also saw a better sealing of these devices, which is, of course, the purpose of that device. And we've also seen a significant risk in reduction, for example, DRT. So this is both a significant impact both on efficiency and on outcome based on this digital twin approach. Now, we are working closely together with leading hospitals worldwide, or some in the United States, in Europe, and in China. And we're also working together actively with all leading manufacturers in this space. Now, if you look to that market, it's a very big market. Structural heart market is expected to grow. Patient numbers will double in the coming 3 to 4 years. Same thing on the coronary side. An increase in number of CCTA scans is expected significantly. So it's a pretty large total addressable market. Now, looking at competition, of course, we're not the only ones in this interesting space. I think in the structural heart space, I think it's fair to say that we're pioneering. We have been developing this platform for the last 8 years, have done thousands of analysis on patients coming from all over the world, and have now both a regulatory cleared product, both in Europe and the United States, and have the clinical data to back it up. On the coronary side, there where we will also lead, or let's say develop some differentiating technology so that we can also go against, for example, clearly heart flow, etc. Now, if we look at the financing history, we've raised 10 million to date, and we plan to double it with our Series C. So we have the full support of our existing investor syndicate, but we're open to 1, maximum 2 new investors to join us in this venture. And we expect to close this round normally by summer somewhere. I thank you for your attention. If there will be any questions, happy to address these after the talk.